Beyond the scripted action scenes, Golden Age Hollywood harbored genuine warriors and survivors. From decorated veterans to men who overcame incredible personal hardships, these actors brought real-life experiences to their performances. Let's discover the authentic stories behind cinema's most enduring tough guys. Welcome to our documentary exploration of Hollywood's most resilient personalities. This educational presentation examines the authentic experiences that shaped these legendary actors. Note that some segments contain references to war, violence, addiction, and mental health challenges. Viewer discretion is advised. Hollywood is filled with iconic tough guys, but who truly deserves the title of toughest? It's not just about muscle or on-screen heroics. These actors have faced personal battles, taken risks, and pushed themselves beyond limits to earn their place in cinema history. In this educational documentary, we reveal the 18 toughest actors in Hollywood. Are you curious to see who made the cut? Let's dive in. Sterling Hayden. Before becoming an actor, Sterling Hayden worked as a fisherman and sailor, traveling the world and earning a reputation as a real-life seaman. By the age of 22, he was already captaining ships, a role that required grit, intelligence, and resilience. Unlike actors who simply played tough guys, Hayden had already proven himself in extreme situations before he ever set foot in Hollywood. During World War II, Hayden enlisted in the military and became a decorated war hero. He joined the Office of Strategic Services, the predecessor to the CIA, and participated in dangerous covert missions supporting resistance fighters. Operating under the alias of a Yugoslav partisan, he helped supply anti-Nazi forces in Eastern Europe, a historical example of Americans supporting freedom movements during this pivotal conflict. Despite his success in Hollywood, Hayden never truly embraced the industry. He viewed acting as a way to make money, not as a calling. His rugged good looks and towering presence made him a natural for leading roles in westerns and film noir classics, but he often felt constrained by the artificiality of filmmaking. He appeared in some of the toughest films of his era, including The Asphalt Jungle, 1950, Johnny Guitar, 1954, and The Killing, 1956. However, Hayden's true passion lay elsewhere. On the open sea, he was infamous for his disdain for Hollywood life. At the height of his career, he walked away from acting multiple times to pursue his love of sailing. He once used his earnings from films to buy a schooner, and took an unconventional path by sailing with his children to the South Seas during a custody dispute. While we're examining this as part of his complex character, it's important to note that violating court orders is illegal and can have serious legal consequences. Hayden also struggled with personal demons, particularly alcohol abuse. Unlike many actors who hid their troubles behind the glamour of Hollywood, Hayden was brutally honest about his struggles. He wrote candidly about his life in his 1963 autobiography, Wanderer, where he expressed deep regret over his brief cooperation with the House Un-American Activities Committee during the Red Scare. Kirk Douglas. Despite these hardships, he was determined to get an education and worked his way into St. Lawrence University, where he excelled in debate and athletics. World War II interrupted his studies, and Douglas enlisted in the U.S. Navy, serving as a communications officer in anti-submarine warfare. He was medically discharged after being injured when a depth charge exploded prematurely. His rise in Hollywood wasn't immediate or easy. Unlike actors who had industry connections, Douglas had to fight for every opportunity. After struggling in theater, he got his big break in The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, 1946, where he played against type as a weak-willed alcoholic. But it was Champion, 1949, that cemented his tough guy image. As an ambitious and brutal boxer, Douglas delivered a performance so intense that it earned him his first Academy Award nomination. His personal life also reflected his remarkable resilience. In an industry notorious for excess and self-destruction, Douglas maintained an iron will, surviving multiple near-death experiences. He overcame a helicopter crash in 1991 that killed 2 other passengers, and in 1996, After suffering a severe stroke that left him unable to speak, he refused to fade into obscurity. Through intensive rehabilitation and determination, a testament to the human spirit's capacity for recovery, he regained his speech and continued his public life. Douglas worked tirelessly well into his 90s, writing memoirs, supporting charitable causes, and maintaining an active presence in Hollywood. William Smith. William Smith grew up on a cattle ranch before his family moved to Southern California. He started working out at a young age, developing the physique that would later make him a dominant force in Hollywood. But his toughness extended far beyond physicality. He was exceptionally intelligent, earning a master's degree in Russian studies and fluently speaking multiple languages, including Russian, German, French, and Serbo-Croatian. Before Hollywood, Smith served in the U.S. Air Force during the Korean War, working in classified intelligence operations. His time in the military gave him discipline and a no-nonsense attitude that set him apart from many of his Hollywood peers. When he transitioned to acting, Smith quickly gained a reputation as one of the most physically dominant actors in the industry. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with a chiseled physique, he was a champion arm wrestler and one of the strongest men in Hollywood. He even had real combat skills, training in martial arts and competitive boxing. This wasn't just for show. Smith was known for his incredible strength, developing remarkable physical capabilities through years of dedicated training, reportedly bench pressing over 500 pounds under proper supervision. Perhaps his most legendary moment in Hollywood was his dramatic confrontation with Clint Eastwood in Any Which Way You Can. This carefully choreographed scene, while appearing realistic, was actually a demonstration of professional stunt work and acting skill, the product of extensive rehearsal and safety precautions. Smith's ability to create such a convincing performance opposite Eastwood in one of the most memorable fight sequences in cinema history cemented his reputation as a true Hollywood tough guy. Even as he aged, Smith never lost his toughness. He continued acting well into his later years, maintaining his powerful build and no-nonsense attitude. George Maharis. Breaking into Hollywood is difficult for any actor, but Maharis had to fight harder than most. In an era where actors were often typecast based on their ethnicity and appearance, he struggled to find meaningful roles. His persistence paid off when he landed small roles in television before securing his breakthrough part as Buzz Murdoch in Route 66 in 1960. His character, a street-smart, tough-talking drifter traveling across America, resonated with audiences. Unlike many Hollywood stars of the time, Maharis brought real grit to his performance. He wasn't playing tough, he was tough. The physical demands of Route 66 were extreme. The show was filmed on location all across the United States, requiring Maharis and co-star Martin Milner to endure grueling travel schedules and long shooting hours. Unlike studio productions with controlled environments, Maharis often filmed in harsh weather conditions, further testing his endurance. But the biggest challenge of his career came when he contracted hepatitis in 1962. At the time, the illness was poorly understood, and Maharis found himself battling not only the disease, but also pressure from producers to keep working despite his deteriorating health. Rather than risk his life for the sake of the show, he made the tough decision to leave Route 66 at the height of its popularity. It was a controversial move that cost him his leading man's status in Hollywood, but it also showed his willingness to stand up for himself when his well-being was at stake. Many actors would have faded into obscurity after such a career setback, but Maharis refused to give up. After recovering, he transitioned into film roles and continued working steadily in television. He appeared in action-packed shows like Mission Impossible, The Streets of San Francisco, and Fantasy Island, proving he still had the intensity and presence that made him a star. Clint Walker. Clint Walker dropped out of school early and took on jobs that tested his strength and resilience. He worked on riverboats, in oil fields, and as a bouncer, gaining first-hand experience in hard labor and confrontation. Eventually, he joined the Merchant Marine during World War II, serving in dangerous waters before returning home to continue his search for a path in life. His journey to stardom was unconventional. Unlike many actors who were trained in theater or came from privileged backgrounds, Walker was discovered purely because of his imposing stature and striking looks. A talent agent noticed him while he was working as a security guard in Las Vegas, leading to a chance meeting with Cecil B. DeMille. This eventually opened the door to Hollywood, where he landed the role that would make him famous, Cheyenne Body, in the hit TV series Cheyenne, 1955 to 1963. Playing Cheyenne Body required more than just looking the part. The show was one of the first successful hour-long westerns on television, and it demanded extensive writing, fighting, and outdoor filming in tough conditions. Unlike many actors who relied on stunt doubles, Walker preferred to do many of his own stunts, showcasing his real-world strength and skill. But Walker's toughness wasn't just for the cameras. In 1971, he had a life-threatening accident that demonstrates why proper safety precautions are essential for all activities. While skiing in Mammoth Mountain, California, he suffered a severe injury when a ski pole punctured his chest, causing critical cardiac trauma. The injury was so severe that doctors initially pronounced him dead. Through extraordinary medical intervention and what doctors described as a miraculous recovery, a testament to both modern emergency medicine and human resilience, Walker survived after emergency surgery. Within a matter of months, he was back in action filming movies as if nothing had happened. His recovery serves as an educational example of both the human body's remarkable healing capacity and the importance of immediate medical attention for traumatic injuries. Christian Bale. What sets Christian Bale apart is his extraordinary commitment to physical transformation for his roles. Though it's important to note that such extreme changes should never be attempted without medical supervision and are often dangerous. One of the most extreme examples came in The Machinist, 2004, where he lost a significant amount of weight under medical supervision to play an emaciated insomniac. This dramatic transformation, which medical professionals strongly caution against attempting, illustrates the potentially dangerous lengths some actors go for their craft. Experts unanimously agree. Such rapid weight changes pose serious health risks, including heart problems, muscle loss, and metabolic damage. Though not from Hollywood's golden age, Christian Bale embodies the same physical commitment and psychological toughness that defined that era's greatest stars. Immediately after The Machinist, Bale reversed the process and bulked up to play Batman in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, 2005. In just 6 months, he went from severely underweight to muscular through a carefully monitored regimen of nutrition and exercise, an example of physical transformation that, while impressive in a controlled environment with medical oversight, demonstrates why such dramatic changes should never be attempted without professional guidance. This kind of drastic physical shift would be nearly impossible for most actors, but Bale did it through a strictly supervised training program that demonstrates both the remarkable capacities and dangerous limits of physical adaptation. His Batman portrayal wasn't just about looking the part. He performed many of his own stunts and underwent rigorous fight training to make the action scenes feel authentic. Beyond his physical endurance, Bale's intensity on set has become legendary. Known for his deep immersion into characters, he often stays in character, even when the cameras aren't rolling. His role in Rescue Dawn, 2006, required him to lose weight again, endure harsh jungle conditions, and perform physically demanding scenes in a film that was as much a survival test for the actor as it was for his character. Then came The Fighter, 2010, where Bale played a crack-addicted former boxer. Once again, he transformed his body, losing weight and adopting the twitchy, erratic energy of a man struggling with addiction. The role won him an Academy Award, but the real triumph was in how convincingly he disappeared into the character. Bale doesn't just take on extreme roles, he does whatever it takes to make them believable. For American Hustle, 2013, he gained over 40 pounds and developed a slouched posture so convincing that he actually suffered back issues afterward. For Ford v Ferrari, 2019, he learned precision driving techniques, spending time behind the wheel to embody a real-life race car driver. Christian Bale doesn't just act, he becomes. Whether he's transforming his body under professional supervision, enduring extreme conditions, or diving deep into the psychology of a character, he commits in a way few others do. David Niven. David Niven, unlike many Hollywood stars, who found fame first, took an unconventional detour through the military on his journey to the silver screen. He attended the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the British Army. However, the rigid structure of military life didn't suit his free-spirited nature, and he soon resigned his commission, heading to America in search of something greater. His early years in Hollywood were far from glamorous. He struggled to land meaningful roles, often working as an extra, before gradually building a reputation as a reliable supporting actor. But just as his career was gaining momentum, World War II broke out, and Niven did something almost no other major Hollywood actor did. He voluntarily left behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood to rejoin the British Army. Most actors who participated in the war effort did so in non-combat roles, entertaining troops or working in propaganda films. Niven, however, was different. He returned to England and was recommissioned as an officer in the British Army, joining the Commandos, an elite special forces unit. He participated in crucial military operations, including preparation for the D-Day invasion, one of history's most significant military undertakings. While many details remain classified, his service represents an important historical example of individuals who set aside personal gain to serve during a global crisis. One of the most remarkable stories about Niven's wartime toughness came when a fellow officer asked him why he had returned to fight when he could have remained safely in Hollywood. His response was simple, yet telling. I had an obligation. That sense of duty and bravery defined him, proving that his toughness wasn't about appearances. It was about character. After the war, he returned to Hollywood, but his comeback wasn't immediate. He had to rebuild his career from scratch, something few actors could manage after years away from the industry. Through sheer determination and undeniable talent, he secured leading roles in films like A Matter of Life and Death, 1946, and The Bishop's Wife, 1947. His smooth, sophisticated screen presence made him a sought-after leading man. Off-screen, he endured personal hardships that tested his resilience. His first wife, Premi, tragically died in a freak accident at a Hollywood party, leaving him devastated. Despite the heartbreak, he carried on raising their 2 children while maintaining his career. Later in life, he faced a progressive illness, ALS, with remarkable dignity and courage. Yet he never lost his humor or dignity, even as the illness took its toll. Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo's toughness was truly tested in prison. His experiences in the correctional system during the 1960s provide an educational window into the harsh realities many faced during that era. Life inside was brutal, with constant violence and survival determined by one's ability to command respect. But it was also in prison that he discovered a way to channel his raw strength through boxing. He became a champion boxer in both the lightweight and welterweight divisions while incarcerated, earning a reputation not just as a dangerous fighter, but as someone who could hold his own in the toughest environments. While Danny Trejo represents a more modern era than the Golden Age. His authentic toughness and real-life resilience mirror the genuine grit of that earlier period in Hollywood history. His time behind bars could have defined the rest of his life, but Trejo made a decision that set him apart from many who shared his past. He wanted change. After his release, he made a remarkable transformation that serves as an inspiring example of rehabilitation and redemption. After being released in the late 1960s, he dedicated himself to staying clean and helping others, working as a drug counselor for troubled youth. It was through this work that Hollywood came calling in the most unexpected way. In 1985, while visiting the set of Runaway Train to help a struggling actor with addiction issues, Trejo was recognized by a screenwriter who had been incarcerated with him years earlier. The film needed an authentic-looking convict for a background role, and Trejo fit the bill perfectly. Trejo's Hollywood career took off after he was cast for a boxing scene. Unlike other actors who gradually worked their way up through formal training and auditions, Trejo became the go-to tough guy because he was the real deal. He didn't need to act like someone who had seen danger. He had lived it. His scars, deep voice, and intimidating presence made him perfect for roles in films like Heat, 1995, Con Air, 1997, and Desperado, 1995, where he often played ruthless enforcers, hitmen, or criminals. Even outside of Hollywood, Trejo's resilience and commitment to growth make him one of the toughest figures in the industry. He has maintained sobriety for over 5 decades, an extraordinary achievement that highlights the possibility of lasting recovery. He has also built a business empire, owning Trejo's Tacos and Trejo's Coffee and Donuts, proving that toughness isn't just about physical strength. It's about surviving, evolving, and thriving. In 2019, Trejo's real-life heroism was put to the test when he witnessed a car accident in Los Angeles. Without hesitation, he rushed to the scene and helped rescue a trapped child from an overturned vehicle. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was known for his love of fast cars, dangerous sports, and frequent run-ins with the law. His boisterous spirit extended to his personal relationships, which were often tumultuous, and his numerous love affairs were fodder for tabloids. However, these traits were not simply a result of immaturity or the excesses of fame. Flynn was genuinely living life on his terms, unconstrained by conventional expectations. Despite his often reckless behavior, Flynn's physical resilience and strength were part of what made him a tough character in the eyes of both the public and his peers. He had a remarkable ability to recover from difficult circumstances, whether it was enduring numerous legal battles and public scandals. Flynn's physical endurance was as legendary as his bravado. For historical context, Flynn performed many physically demanding scenes in an era before modern safety regulations, though we should note that today's film industry rightfully prioritizes performer safety through proper training, equipment, and supervision. His personal life was equally eventful, marked by turbulent relationships, legal challenges, and persistent rumors that painted him as a man of extremes. His involvement in high-profile lawsuits, particularly his legal battles surrounding accusations of sexual misconduct in the 1940s, showcased a man who was unafraid to take on the system, even when it threatened to dismantle his career. Flynn's willingness to stand up for himself, even in the face of scandal, showed a toughness that wasn't just physical, but mental and emotional as well. James Duhan. James Duhan initially trained as a pilot during World War II. His service in the Royal Canadian Air Force was one of the defining experiences of his life and helped shape the character of resilience that would become part of his public persona. Duhan flew 29 combat missions over Europe, providing us with an educational glimpse into the dangerous reality faced by Allied airmen during this pivotal historical conflict. On one fateful mission, Duhan was injured when he was shot in the right hand, losing a finger in the process. This injury, however, would not stop him from pursuing his dreams. On D-Day, he led his men onto Juno Beach during one of history's most significant military operations, facing extreme danger as part of the first waves of the Allied invasion. After successfully leading his unit to their objective without casualties, Duhan was returning from a scouting mission at night when a nervous Canadian sentry mistook him for an enemy soldier. In a tragic example of the confusion and danger inherent in wartime operations, the sentry fired multiple shots, striking Duhan in his leg and chest. The chest shot would have been fatal had Duhan not been carrying a silver cigarette case given to him by his brother, which deflected the bullet. Duhan's ability to carry on after such a traumatic event is a testament to his indomitable will. After the war, Duhan shifted his focus to acting, but his experience in the military would continue to influence his career. He joined the Canadian Army Reserves and later attended the prestigious Neighborhood Playhouse in New York, eventually landing a range of acting roles on Broadway and in Canadian radio. When Duhan was cast as Scotty, the no-nonsense brilliant engineer of the Starship Enterprise, he brought something unique to the role. While Scotty was often seen as a dependable, even humorous figure, Duhan infused him with the kind of toughness that came from real-life experience. Unlike the stereotypical engineer, who might sit in the background, Scotty was active, often called upon to engage in dangerous, life-threatening situations. He had to maintain his cool under pressure, a trait that Duhan mirrored in his real life. One of the most remarkable aspects of Duhan's life was his willingness to continue working despite the physical challenges he faced. His injury in World War II had left him with a permanent handicap, but he never allowed it to hinder his performance. In fact, many fans didn't even realize that Duhan was missing a finger, as he cleverly used his natural dexterity to conceal it, maintaining the physicality of the character he had created. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson, raised in a coal mining town, witnessed firsthand the harshness of working-class life, an experience that would resonate throughout his career. At a young age, he worked in the coal mines alongside his father, providing us with an educational perspective on the often overlooked historical reality of child labor in America's industrial past. These formative years instilled in him a toughness that would become a defining aspect of his personality. Born Charles Bukinski to Lithuanian immigrants in Pennsylvania, Bronson was the 11th of 15 children in a family that lived in extreme poverty. He grew up in a house that had no indoor plumbing and began working in dangerous mining conditions at a young age when his father died. A stark historical example of the economic hardships that forced children into hazardous labor before modern child protection laws. So poor was his family that Bronson once revealed he wore his sister's dress to school because he had no clothes of his own. Bronson's journey to becoming one of the most iconic tough guy actors was a long and winding one. After serving in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II, where he earned a Purple Heart, Bronson returned to the U.S. and eventually pursued acting. He was initially cast in small, unremarkable roles, often as a background character or an uncredited extra. This period in his career was marked by perseverance. He didn't land leading roles immediately, and it was years of steady, smaller parts before he became the star many would come to recognize. What truly set Bronson apart from other actors was his commitment to authenticity. Bronson wasn't just playing tough characters. He was embodying the very essence of resilience and strength. This authenticity was rooted in his real-life experiences as a child of immigrants, a working-class laborer, and a war veteran. Bronson's life had been shaped by hardship and struggle. These experiences informed the characters he portrayed, giving them an emotional depth that many other action stars lacked. His stoic demeanor and sparing use of dialogue added to the sense of inner toughness. A man who had been through life's most brutal trials and had come out the other side unchanged. Off-screen, Bronson was known for his no-nonsense attitude. He wasn't one to indulge in the typical Hollywood lifestyle, which made him a stark contrast to many of his contemporaries. While other stars partied in the limelight, Bronson kept a low profile, preferring solitude or spending time with his family. His refusal to engage in the trappings of fame only further solidified his reputation as a tough, principled man who was more interested in living life on his own terms than in maintaining his Hollywood image. James Stewart. James Stewart grew up with a strong sense of responsibility, humility, and discipline, qualities that would later manifest in his on-screen personas. But it was his time at Princeton University and his experiences as an athlete that contributed to the development of the physicality and mental fortitude he would display both in his career and personal life. Stewart, a member of the university's fencing team, was already building the foundation of the toughness he would bring to his future roles. Stewart's career took a significant turn during World War II, where he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Corps in 1941. Despite being a Hollywood star at the time, Stewart chose to serve his country. Unlike many other actors who managed to secure deferments or remain in the safety of civilian life, Stewart felt a profound sense of duty to contribute in a meaningful way. Stewart's military service was far more significant than most accounts suggest. Initially rejected for being underweight, he actually gained weight deliberately to meet the minimum requirement, then used his civilian pilot's license and flying experience to qualify for the Air Corps. Though the military initially wanted to use him for recruitment films and publicity, Stewart fought these assignments, insisting on combat duty despite being over 30, considerably older than most pilots. During his service, he flew combat missions over Europe, eventually rising to the rank of colonel and becoming a respected figure within the military. Stewart's bravery in combat earned him several decorations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, which recognized his courage and skill as a bomber pilot. As a squadron commander, Stewart carried the enormous burden of sending young men to their deaths. He flew 20 extremely dangerous bombing missions, including operations over heavily defended German cities, a historical example of the psychological and physical challenges faced by Allied air crews during this pivotal conflict. Stewart's return to Hollywood after the war was marked by a visible change in his demeanor. He was no longer the carefree, bright-eyed actor who had left for military service. The toll of war had made him tougher, more introspective, and more aware of the fragility of life. However, it also gave him a depth of character that would influence his performances in a way that no other actor of his time could replicate. Stewart returned from war, experiencing what we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition affecting many veterans that deserves understanding and professional support. He experienced combat nightmares, insomnia, and a noticeable hand tremor. 20 pounds underweight and psychologically exhausted, Stewart questioned whether he could or should return to making movies, feeling that acting seemed frivolous after what he had experienced in war. Director Frank Capra, himself a World War II veteran, convinced the reluctant Stewart to star in It's a Wonderful Life, recognizing that the role of George Bailey, a man questioning his worth and purpose, aligned perfectly with Stewart's post-war emotional state. Carl Urban, didn't enter the world of acting through a traditional route. He was passionate about the craft from a young age, but his early exposure to acting was more through the local theater scene rather than Hollywood fame. What set him apart from many actors early on was his commitment to authentic, gritty roles and his drive to push the boundaries of what was expected of him. This attitude toward acting was molded by his life in New Zealand, where he witnessed the resilience of a tight-knit community that often had to work hard to make a name for itself in the shadow of Hollywood's glitzy dominance. Though Carl Urban belongs to a contemporary era rather than the Golden Age, his no-nonsense approach to physicality and character work honors the authentic toughness that defined Hollywood's earlier legends. Urban's physical toughness is immediately apparent in his most famous roles, but it wasn't always the starry action hero roles that defined him. His role in the Lord of the Rings trilogy introduced him to a global audience. But it was not an easy experience. The demanding physical nature of the role, combined with the intense high-altitude environments of the New Zealand wilderness, tested Urban's endurance. He was not simply playing a warrior, he had to be one. The scenes required him to spend hours riding horseback, often in extreme weather conditions, and fight in choreographed battles that pushed his physical limits. What few audiences realize is that Urban came to his Lord of the Rings role with no horseback riding experience whatsoever. Yet through intensive professional training over 3 months, he developed the skills necessary for complex mounted scenes, demonstrating the importance of proper preparation for physically demanding roles. During filming, he suffered an accident resulting in rib injuries when a horse fell, highlighting the inherent risks of such production work even with safety protocols in place. This serves as an educational example of why professional supervision and training are essential for any dangerous physical activity. The heavy armor worn during battle sequences weighed nearly 50 pounds and caused severe heat exhaustion during summer filming days, with temperatures inside the metal costume reaching dangerous levels. Robert Mitchum embodied a unique brand of toughness in Hollywood, a languid, effortless cool that masked genuine, real-world grit. Born into poverty in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Mitchum's early life reads like something from one of his film noir plots. His father was killed in a rail yard accident when he was just 2 years old, plunging the family into desperate circumstances. By age 14, Mitchum was living as a homeless drifter during the Great Depression, riding boxcars across America and surviving by his wits. Unlike actors who played tough characters, Mitchum's hardened demeanor came from authentic experiences. As a teenager during the Great Depression, a historically significant period of economic hardship, he experienced homelessness and was briefly incarcerated in a Georgia chain gang for vagrancy. His experiences provide an educational window into this challenging chapter of American history. These experiences instilled in him a profound disdain for authority and pretension that would define both his screen persona and personal life. His characteristic half-lidded gaze, often mistaken for boredom or indifference, actually resulted from a boxing injury sustained during his days as an amateur fighter when he was trying to earn money on the traveling carnival circuit. Mitchum's entry into acting happened almost by accident when he moved to California and found work as a stagehand. His imposing physique and distinctive face soon led to bit parts, primarily as a heavy in B-westerns. His breakthrough in 1945's The Story of G.I. Joe earned him his only Oscar nomination, but it was his performances in noir classics like Out of the Past, in 1947, that established his iconic screen presence. His personal toughness was tested in 1948 when he was arrested for marijuana possession, an incident that provides historical context for America's evolving attitudes toward substance use and criminal justice. At a time when such an offense carried severe social and professional consequences, Mitchum's experience sheds light on the harsh penalties and stigma of the era. Mitchum served 60 days at a California prison farm, facing his situation with characteristic stoicism. Rather than begging for public forgiveness, he emerged with his sardonic humor intact, telling reporters, "It's like being in a Turkish bath with all your clothes on." Against all expectations, audiences embraced him after his release, proving that his authentic brand of toughness resonated more deeply than manufactured studio images. Perhaps Mitchum's most chilling performance came in 1955's The Night of the Hunter, where he played a psychopathic preacher with love and hate tattooed on his knuckles. The role revealed the darkness he could access from his troubled youth, while demonstrating the complexity behind his seemingly simple, tough guy facade. Unlike many of his contemporaries who softened with age or tried to update their images, Mitchum remained unapologetically himself throughout his 5-decade career. A genuine article in an industry built on illusion. Lee Marvin. With his distinctive silver hair and gravelly voice, Lee Marvin brought an unmistakable authenticity to Hollywood tough guy roles that few could match, largely because his off-screen life contained more danger and drama than most of his movies. Born to a well-off family, his father was an advertising executive, Marvin rejected the comfortable path laid out for him, dropping out of high school to join the Marines during World War II. His military service would forever shape his life and acting career. As a Marine Scout sniper, during some of the Pacific Theater's most intense fighting, Marvin participated in crucial island campaigns that represent significant historical moments in World War II. His service provides an educational window into the experiences of American forces during this pivotal conflict. During the Battle of Saipan in 1944, he was critically wounded when a Japanese machine gun round severed his sciatic nerve. The injury hospitalized him for over a year and left him with a distinctive walk that would later become part of his screen presence. He received the Purple Heart, but rarely discussed his heroism, telling one interviewer, "I was just there to do a job." After the war, Marvin drifted through odd jobs, including plumber's assistant and cemetery caretaker, while battling what would now be recognized as severe PTSD. His entry into acting came almost by accident when repairing a summer stock theater's toilets led to a small role in a production. Despite his lack of formal training, Marvin's natural intensity and physical presence quickly earned him roles playing menacing villains in films of the 1950s. Marvin's performance in The Killers, 1964, caught the attention of director John Borman, leading to his iconic role in Point Blank, 1967, where he played the revenge-driven Walker with a detached, almost mechanical determination that revolutionized screen portrayals of violence. When discussing his ability to portray combat and violence realistically, Marvin's comments reflected his first-hand knowledge from military service, offering unique insight into how real-world experiences can inform artistic interpretation while reminding us of war's genuine human cost. His Oscar-winning dual performance in Cat Ballou, 1965, revealed the humor and versatility behind his tough exterior, though he maintained that acting is the most minor of gifts and not a very high-class way to earn a living. This dismissive attitude toward his own profession reflected Marvin's belief that his war experiences gave him perspective on what truly mattered in life. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen, known as the King of Cool, possessed a brand of toughness that transcended his screen performances and resonated deeply with audiences who sensed the authentic struggle behind the star persona. Born in 1930 to a teenage alcoholic mother who couldn't care for him, McQueen endured a nomadic childhood shuttled between relatives and reform school. His formative years were marked by neglect, abuse, and petty crime, experiences that instilled both a fierce independence and a lifelong struggle to overcome feelings of abandonment. Unlike actors who studied their craft at prestigious institutions, McQueen's education in resilience came from the streets. At 14, he joined a street gang before eventually finding structure in the Marine Corps, where he spent 3 years. His military service was marked by both rebellion — he spent 41 days in the brig for extending a weekend pass into a 2-week absence — and redemption. He distinguished himself by saving the lives of 5 other Marines during an Arctic training exercise. McQueen's path to Hollywood was as unconventional as the man himself, using GI Bill funds to study acting at Sanford Meisner's neighborhood playhouse. He supported himself through odd jobs, including lumberjack, towel boy at a brothel, and competitive motorcycle racer. These varied experiences gave him an authenticity that couldn't be manufactured, particularly in physical roles. While McQueen was known for performing certain stunts personally, it's important to note that such practices would today be subject to strict safety protocols and professional supervision to protect performers. an educational contrast to historical filmmaking practices. His breakthrough came with the television series Wanted Dead or Alive, 1958 to 1961, where he played bounty hunter Josh Randall. But it was his role as the taciturn loner in The Magnificent Seven, 1960, that established his screen persona, the anti-hero whose quiet competence spoke louder than words. This character type reached its apex in Bullitt, 1968, featuring the legendary car chase through San Francisco that stands as a landmark achievement in cinema history, though it's worth noting that such sequences today would involve extensive safety measures, professional drivers, and controlled conditions to prevent injuries. McQueen's toughness extended beyond physical prowess to a fierce independence that often put him at odds with Hollywood powers. He famously declined roles in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Apocalypse Now, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, decisions that might have cost him critical acclaim, but maintained his autonomy. When he did take roles, he fought relentlessly for creative control, once delaying production of The Getaway, 1972, until his contractual demands were met. McQueen's final battle came against pleural mesothelioma, a rare aggressive cancer associated with asbestos exposure, highlighting the serious health risks of this substance that was once common in various industries and before its dangers were fully understood. Refusing conventional treatment in America, he sought alternative therapies in Mexico that ultimately proved unsuccessful. He died in 1980 at just 50 years old, leaving behind an enduring legacy as a star whose on-screen toughness was merely a reflection of the real struggles he had endured. Pam Greer. In an era when female action stars were virtually non-existent, Pam Greer broke barriers with a toughness that was both physical and psychological, becoming an icon of strength for audiences who had never seen a woman dominate the screen with such commanding presence. Born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in 1949, Greer's early life was marked by hardship and traumatic experiences that would inform her later performances. While Pam Greer came after Hollywood's golden age, her groundbreaking toughness and authenticity honor the same spirit of resilience that defined that earlier era's greatest stars. Raised partly on military bases where her father was stationed, Greer developed resilience early, moving frequently and adjusting to new environments. These traumatic events could have destroyed her, but instead she channeled that pain into a determination that would later define her iconic roles. Greer's path to Hollywood was unconventional. After briefly attending college, she moved to Los Angeles, where she worked as a receptionist at American International Pictures while taking acting classes. Her striking appearance caught the attention of director Jack Hill, leading to early roles in women in prison films like The Big Dollhouse, 1971. Rather than being exploited by these B-movies, Greer used them as a training ground, developing her craft and physical performance skills while working within the limited opportunities available to black actresses at that time, an important educational perspective on Hollywood's historical racial barriers. Her breakthrough came with Coffee, 1973, where she played a nurse seeking revenge against drug dealers who destroyed her sister's life. The film established Greer as the first female action star who could carry an entire film, dispatching villains with a combination of intelligence, physical prowess, and uncompromising determination. What made her performances revolutionary was not just the novelty of a female action lead, but the authentic rage and resilience she brought to these roles. Unlike manufactured studio stars, Greer performed physically demanding scenes that required significant preparation and training, occasionally sustaining injuries like many action performers of that era. Her pioneering work highlights the evolution of on-set safety in Hollywood, where today such sequences would involve comprehensive safety protocols to protect performers. Her commitment to physical authenticity extended beyond the camera. She was proficient with firearms, trained in martial arts, and maintained her own physical fitness regimen that allowed her to perform convincingly in action sequences when most actresses were limited to decorative roles. Greer's career renaissance came with Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown, 1997, a film written specifically for her that showcased the quiet strength and dignity she had developed throughout her challenging life. Unlike many actors who simply played tough characters, Greer's performance drew on genuine survival experiences, bringing authenticity to a role that many consider her finest work. Toshiro Meune. In the realm of international cinema, few actors embodied raw physical and psychological toughness with the electrifying intensity of Toshiro Meune. Born in Qingdao, China, in 1920 to Japanese parents, Mifune's early life was shaped by hardship and cultural displacement. His formative years coincided with the growing tensions between China and Japan, giving him a complex perspective on identity and conflict that would later inform his most powerful performances. Mifune's introduction to genuine danger came during World War II, when he was drafted into the Japanese Imperial Army Air Force. As an aerial photographer conducting reconnaissance missions over enemy territory, he participated in one of military aviation's most hazardous assignments, providing us with an educational perspective on the dangerous realities faced by military personnel during this pivotal historical conflict. His military experience exposed him to both the regimented discipline of Japanese military culture and the chaotic reality of war, influences that would later make his samurai and warrior roles uniquely authentic. After Japan's defeat, Mifune returned to a devastated country facing occupation and profound national identity crisis. Like many veterans, he struggled to find work in the shattered economy. His entry into acting came almost accidentally when he applied for a job as a camera assistant at Toho Studios, but was redirected to an actor's audition by mistake. During this audition, Mifune was asked to perform an angry scene. Drawing on his war experiences, he unleashed such genuine rage that many observers felt frightened. But director Akira Kurosawa saw something extraordinary in this raw, emotional power. The Kurosawa-Mifune collaboration would produce 16 films that revolutionized world cinema, including masterpieces like Seven Samurai, 1954, Throne of Blood, 1957, and Yojimbo, 1961. What made their work so groundbreaking was Mifune's willingness to abandon the stylized acting traditions of Japanese cinema in favor of a visceral physicality that transcended cultural boundaries. Kurosawa later wrote that Mifune had a kind of animal intuition. He could understand with his body what I wanted to do. This physical intuition came with real costs. Mifune's commitment to authenticity in historical epics, like Throne of Blood, involved working within the filmmaking practices of his era, which differed significantly from today's strict safety standards. Modern productions would use advanced visual effects rather than practical methods for dangerous scenes, prioritizing performer safety while achieving similar dramatic impact. In Seven Samurai, he performed exhausting sword fights in heavy armor during torrential rain, developing pneumonia but refusing to delay production. Perhaps the greatest test of Mifune's resilience came with the painful dissolution of his partnership with Kurosawa after Red Beard, 1965. The director's perfectionism had required Mifune to maintain a full beard for 2 years, preventing him from accepting other roles and financially crippling his production company. Their subsequent estrangement lasted until shortly before Mifune's death, a professional and personal loss he bore with characteristic stoicism. When asked about his preparation process, he once remarked, "I'm not always acting. Most of the time, I'm remembering." This simple statement revealed how he transformed his experiences of displacement, war, and post-war struggle into performances of unmatched authenticity. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.